In this section, I want to show how you can take a simple test like starts with A and use the notion of and or to combine it with other tests to sort of put together a more complicated test. So this is called Boolean Logic. So the way this is going to work is in the code, the notion of and is the symbol for that is two ampersands run together. And the symbol for or is two vertical bars put together. So let me show you what that looks like. So here's some code. And it has the first test just says if the name starts with A, just as we've done before. And that test it's complete and functional. So that is not changed by adding the notion of Boolean logic. So for Boolean logic, what we do is we take that test and we follow it with two ampersands. So you would pronounce that as and then it's followed by a second test. And the second test is also complete and makes sense on its own. So what this does is it just takes two tests and it puts them together. And it says, well, for this overall if test to be true, both of these subparts have to be true. So the components are, well, here, I'll run it. So what this says is names that begin with A, that has to be true, and the name has to end with Y. So if I run it, we just get this kind of shorter list of names that begin with A and end with Y. Syntactically, like I said, it has the two tests, each of which is complete. They're joined with and or, as we'll see in a minute. And then finally, there is still this one set of parentheses, a leftmost parenthesis and a rightmost parenthesis around the entire thing. So I'll do a bunch of examples like this. One other thing to point out about this. In this case, what happened is the test is kind of long, right? I had this whole starts with part and ampersand, and so if I did it all in one line, it gets a little long. So what's happened in this case is I hit return after the ampersand, and I went down here and I hit the space bar to get the row over here and kind of line it up. So I wrote the second test on a second line. That's optional, but you can do it. Putting in spaces and stuff like that doesn't upset the code. So all my examples I'll sort of neaten up in this way, where I'll tend to write one test per line, and then I'll align them this way. So here's the second test. And the only thing that's a little confusing is to note that there are two parentheses are required here. This first one just balances the parenthesis for the ends with. And then the second one is the one that covers the entire test. So it matches up to that first one. So if you leave that out, actually I can demonstrate this. So it's a pretty easy error to leave that one out because you have to kind of realize, oh right, I need two there. So in that case, not always, but the run button just for this class will try and give you an error message like, oh, it looks like there's a missing parenthesis there. So now if I run it that way, okay, then we're still good. As I said before, each of these tests is complete and stands on its own. So just syntactically the way we did stuff before. There's this one form of the code that looks right but is wrong. And so I'll create that here. So if you just write it this way, so I'll just sort of pronounce it. Row.getFieldName dot starts with A and ends with Y. So just to the ear, to a human, they would know what that means, but this code does not work. The problem is the second term on its own doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't just stand on its own. Like ends with, well, it doesn't make sense. Usually what we need is, where I'm putting the cursor here, we would need row.getFieldName or rank or whatever it's going to be dot ends with. So this does not work. Each to the left and the right of the ampersand, each test has to be complete. So in this case, I'll just sort of hit undo in Firefox here. If we want to be talking about name, like we spell it out for the first test, and then we also just completely spell it out for the second test. So each test makes sense to the computer. Alrighty, so let me try another example here. Let's see. So right now, if I run this, it just shows all the A names, which is quite a lot. What the problem statement says is change the code so it prints the names that start with A and the rank is less than 50. So I'll go here. So there's the first test, and I'll add two ampersands. Hit return. I'll say row. All right, so that starts with A is one test, and I'm gonna combine it with an and with a second test, where I'll say rank. What did it say? Less than or equal to 50. So I think let's try it. Yeah, so that works. So we still get A names, but now we're just getting up to rank 50. All right, so let me try a third example here. All right, now we'll do an example with or. Change the code below so it prints rows where the following is true. Name starts with X, or the name starts with Y, or the name starts with Z. So if I just run it right now, the code that's there just does X. So I'm going to use or. And I'll copy this. So by using an OR test, you make multiple ways for the overall if test to be true. It's like, well, the if test will be true if this one is true or if this other thing is true. So it's kind of a widening. So here I'll say or row.getField y. So for the previous run, we only got x. Right? So I'm going to run this. Oh, so now we get x and y. So there's Yusuf and Yaritza. Notice that my goal ultimately was to show x or y or z, but I think it is kind of nice if you get the code in a kind of a half-built state, but where it makes sense, just try running it and kind of verify, oh, that works, before going on to do the whole thing. It's kind of a classic computer code rule of thumb. Don't try and do the entire thing in one step. So I'll say or starts with z. So I guess partly what I'm showing here is you can have multiple ors or multiple ands and string a few things together. So let's try that. There we go. Oh, so there's quite a few z names. So there we have it, x or y or z. So this shows the two vertical bars. And then in this case, I've strung together three things. For this class, I'll use either a bunch of things connected with and or a bunch of things connected with or. I won't combine them. Combining them just brings up some other cases that are kind of interesting, but I didn't want to get into. They don't really add a lot. Other thing I should mention about this. Oh, right. So I should just apologize. So this ampersand business is sort of a historical accident, or the vertical bar business. Influential language chose this in like the mid-70s. And once one language had chosen this symbol to mean or, some other languages thought, oh, well, we should just use that convention. And so it just kind of snowballed where now that's a very common convention. So I felt like, well, it's kind of obscure, but that's the convention, so we should just go ahead and learn that one. All right. Let me scroll down here a little bit. So actually what I have set up is just a large number of examples here. And there's a show solution button here. So if you want to practice or to review these examples I've done, you could come back. It's all sort of here. What I'll do is I'll just try the first 6. So I'll type in the code for those, and I'll leave the others as kind of extra practice for people who want it. OK, so the first one says name starts with AB or starts with AC. So I'll say there's some code here to start with already. So starts with AB. What was it? Or starts with AC. So get some starts with here. So this should be an or, 2 vertical bars. Let's try that. So we got AC. Where's the AC name? Oh, look, I made a bug. I typed AB twice. OK, that happens. Ah, there we go. OK, there's AC. So that's sort of that interesting example of a bug, where sometimes bugs are syntax errors, where you hit the run button and it just, it crashes and you get some red output. But sometimes a bug is just that I type something that does mean something to the computer, but it's not what I intended. And so then the output is one I expected, and then I'm a little bit confused. So that's the more higher level kind of bug that is, of course, fairly common with computers. OK, let's see. Next one. Name starts with AB or AC or AL. Oh, I see. So this just extends. This just shows that you can have 3. So I'll say vertical bar. I'll paste this in. So it was AC. So AB and AC doesn't give us a lot. But with AL, then there's quite a lot. OK. So the next one was name starts with O and ends with A. So I'll say starts. I'll just translate it. Starts with O and ends with A. All right, let's try that. Oh, there's only one, Olivia. How about starts with O and gender is girl? So I'll just get gender out of here. And then the way you test that is not with starts with, ends with, but just with equals equals. So O and girl. Ah, there's only 2. So we get Olive. OK, name ends with A and gender is boy. So I'll change this to name.ends with A. And sort of per my previous example, my previous claim, I'll just cut that out. I could now it's half built, right? Name ends with A and I haven't done it, but I could run that and sort of verify, like, oh, OK, all right, that's working. And then take your working thing and extend it. What did I want? In this case, oh, name ends with A and gender is boy. Okay. Geez, there's a lot of girl names in the way there. Boy. Oh, well, there's a few. Joshua, Ezra. Okay, I'll do this last one. Number 6. Rank is less than 10 and gender is girl. So I'll change this to rank. And instead of ends with, I'll say less than or equal to 10. And so now I'm not using starts with or ends with for either of these, but just notice each one of those is a complete and correct test, as we discussed before. That one is, and that one is, and I'm just joining them with an and. So rank is less than 10, and gender in this case is girl. Let's try that. So that makes sense. We just get 1, 2, 3, 4, well, 1 through 10 girl names. This one's kind of interesting in that this I think has a sensible English translation. What this says is top 10 girl names, and then we can phrase that as this and thing. Well, rank is less than or equal to 10, and gender is girl, or indeed, ultimately, we can phrase it as code. So just get it down to where the computer can actually do it. So there's a few more problems here, and the solution's all available. So this is a good opportunity to come and review what I did or try a little bit of practice before we do the exercises, because these, in some sense, our computer languages have now gotten big enough that we can have a lot of different exercises. Alrighty.